Hey dudes and dudettes, it's me, E.H. Ivins, your Uncle Herbie, the dad you wish you had, and this is another edition of The Dad You Wish You Had, the newest, or certainly one of the newest podcasts here on YouTube. This for those of you out there who are in the majority of people who have been raised either without a father or with a father who was, let's just say, checked out, and then to life's little problems and challenges, regardless of what they are, you're looking for some male advice, which you can take or leave. You know, I'm just giving you a perspective. There are thousands of sources out there of either psychological advice, which I am not. I am not a psychologist, or life coaches, and I am not a life coach. I am just a dad who has raised 4 healthy adults, all of whom are educated, all of whom who are successful, all of whom are still close to me and their mother, which is a statement in and of itself, and plus lots of life experiences in my 63 years. Now, right above my head, before I get started, you will see My Other Dad. Text to 844-935-0444. Listen, if you text to that number, I'm going to get your question, and I'm going to answer it here on one of the podcasts, assuming that your question is neither lewd nor unsuitable for young or sensitive ears, eyes, or comments. Now, having said that, understand that it will always be anonymous, but sometimes I'm going to paraphrase your questions because I have found already, although this is the bare infancy of The Dad You Wish You Had, that a lot of these questions that I'm getting already they tend to go on and on and on. So I'm not reading them directly, not because I absolutely want you to write me everything that's on your mind. Please understand, I want to read it all. But for the purposes of the podcast itself, I'm not going to share your personal background details because they're color and they're important and they fill things in, but they're not necessarily of interest to everybody else. They're unique to you. I'm going to pick out of the question the things that are going to be the most benefit both to you and to everyone else looking in, and also taking out any detail that might give away who you are. All questions that come to me are answered anonymously. I will use your first name only without location, and I will even use a different first name if you should ask me to, so as to keep your questions anonymous. Okay, so today's question comes from Carolyn. Carolyn was divorced a few years ago. Oh, and by the way, before I go any further, there's a little red dot here right between my eyes. That's just where a dermatologist burned off a little mole, and I just don't want you to be focused on that as I'm talking. I'm kind of focused on it, but maybe that's because, like all people, I'm insecure about certain things about my own looks, like that thing right between my eyes that makes me look like I just converted to Hinduism. By the way, there is nothing wrong with Hinduism. That was just a quip. Anyway, having said that, let me move on. So Carolyn writes me, and she'd gotten divorced a couple of years ago. Her husband had cheated on her with another woman. Yada, yada, yada. It's the present time. The other woman has cheated on him. What a surprise. She has run away with another man. Now he has come home trying to reconcile with Carolyn. Carolyn would like to know, obviously, what to do. Now, before I get into that question, I'm going to answer it. I'm going to preface my answer by saying this is fatherly advice for you to take or leave, and you should certainly balance it against advice you get from other people. I do not claim to be the maven of know-it-all. I'm going to give you my very male, very fatherly, very direct, which is just the way I am, perspective, and then you can do with it what you will. Of course, I expect you to, use it to your own circumstance. Now, let's talk about adultery in general, something that, as I have admitted to you in the past, I have done, and it's a despicable act, and you got to recognize, to have any transformation in life, to have any shot at redemption, you have to recognize when you've done a horrible thing. And adultery is at the top of the list of horrible things. The only thing worse than adultery in a marriage is physical abuse, or abuse of any kind for that matter. Abuse is worse than adultery, but adultery, you could make the argument, is abuse, because it is betrayal. And betrayal is something that's going to destroy any reasonable relationship. Now, okay, and we're not going to get into should you or should you not divorce. That's water under the bridge. Now he's coming home. Now, men cheat for a number of different reasons. There are those men who, let's just call them hound dogs, because it's something that we all understand, just feel like they need to spread their seed into every woman they see, and a man like that should never be forgiven. Let's just, if your husband was a serial adulterer and then you finally divorced him over this last affair, but it doesn't sound to me like he was, because he actually ran away with the other woman and lived with her for a time. which leads me to believe that he was not getting something, or that he felt he needed at home and sought it elsewhere. Now, this is not to blame you. I am not in the business of blaming the victim. I'm not saying that you did. Please do not blame yourself when your spouse, male or female, cheats on you. This is a failure in character. I know, because I've had that failure of character. However, the underlying spark that sometimes sets it off is and this happens in a marriage. First you start out, you're dating, you can't keep your hands off each other, time, children, life, pressure, marriage, taxes, expenses, yada, yada, yada. And all too often, the first thing to go is sex. And once sex goes in a relationship, if you really think about it, why would a man and a woman be together if not for sex? Or any two partners. This would be equally true in a gay marriage, okay? So, in other words, you can have lots of friends, but the reason that you live with the person you live with is, in the end, if you cut right through the malarkey and get down to the bottom line, sex. Yes, you're getting comforted. Yes, you have your best friend. Yes, you have someone to talk to. Yes, you have someone to relate with. Yes, you have someone to build a family with. That's all unbelievably important. But in the end, the foundation on which all of this is built, if you're to have a truly intimate relationship, especially when you're younger. At my age, it becomes, I can't tell you how much my own testosterone level has dove since I crossed the 50 line plus. It's been on a steady downward stream ever since. But having said that, in a normal, and I'm assuming, Carolyn, you're fairly young, relationship, there should be a lot of sex. And of course, what happens is that it dials back. When you're dating, it's 16 times a day, everywhere in the house, any place you can find it. And by the time you get to your second year in marriage, you're lucky if you're doing it once a week. And when that happens, you're in trouble. The most important thing to work on in any married relationship is the sexual part of the relationship. You can forgive a lot. Okay, let's just be honest about this. We are all animals, okay? We are a member of sapiens, okay? We are Homo sapiens. We are just a highly evolved primate. Like any primate, we have a normal sex drive, and if that's not being satisfied, male or female, it will be satisfied elsewhere. In this case, your husband did it with another woman and ran away with her. Now, this is not to put blame on you. Please don't hear that I'm saying that. All too often, particularly women, blame themselves for why relationship fails, and it could just as easily have been the reason that your husband was ignoring you and didn't see his own culpability in destroying the marital relationship. There can be lots of reasons why sex broke down in your relationship, but I would gamble a lot of money it did, and then he sought it elsewhere and did it with this woman, and then unsurprisingly, she cheated on him, and now he's coming home. And the question is that you're asking me is, should you trust him? And the short answer is no. Now, because there's shades of gray in this, and this is not a yes or no question per se. I'm just giving you, if you ask me straight out as a father, and you were my daughter, you were either, my oldest or youngest daughter, and you said to me, should I go back to this guy? I would say no, but let's talk about it. Okay, so, and I should share that in my daughter's relationships, they've had relationships with men over the years that they've gone back to the well a couple of times. Not married relationships, but, even in dating, people have a tendency to, this kind of thing happens. Okay, so, as to whether you should trust him again, he's coming back to you because he's been damaged, because he's been hurt by the other woman, and that is not the healthiest foundation on which to build a new relationship. If he wants, the one path that I would give him back to you, if you are so inclined, Carolyn, as to forgive him, is make him woo you and date you and court you all over again. You are no longer married. You are divorced. He needs to wine you, dine you, treat you like the princess that you are and or queen, because you didn't put your age in the question, so I have no idea how old you are, Carolyn, but I'm assuming fairly young, and there are children and so on and so forth. You had shared with me that you have 13 and 16-year-old children, so I'm going to put you in your mid to late 30s, maybe early 40s. He needs to wine you, dine you, court you, woo you, and start all over again, because he needs to prove that he is worthy. It's not that he cannot be forgiven, but what he can't do, what you cannot let him do, is just move back in, because right now he's rebounding. And the last thing you want to do is pick up somebody, male or female, on the rebound, because they don't know what they want. He's been hurt. He has suffered what he has done to you. And now he is looking for a safe haven, and he knows that you are a safe haven. And he goes back to the memory of what once was, and he probably has romantic notions, and he's probably swearing on a stack of Bibles that he'll be different now. And to that, I just say, as they say in the state of Missouri or Missouri, let me know which one of those are correct. I read it as Missouri, so I'm going to say Missouri. Show me, okay? Show me. You want to come back to me. You want to rekindle our relationship. You want to get back together for the sake of our children. Whatever the case, whatever the story is he's telling. And when you have teenage children, the damage has already been done from the prior divorce. So getting back together isn't going to undo that damage. The damage is done there. So this is really about you and him. And the bottom line is, and that's another question for another day. I could go on and on about that damage, but I'll wait for another day for that one. I don't want this video to go on too long. In the case of just your relationship, should you take him back? Show me. Make him prove it. Make him crawl on his belly like a reptile over hot burning coals by whining, dining, and wooing you, and as if he just met you. Go through the dating ritual again, and if you find that love again, if you find that lust again, if you can find a basis to have that physical relationship you once had, if you can bring sex back into your relationship and love back into your relationship, and find yourself honestly saying to yourself, after no less than 1 year of courting, then take him back. But if he is unwilling to go through that, if he gives you this, why should we do that? And we were married, we know each other, and we don't have to go. Because he has to show and prove to you that he is worthy of your trust once again. Otherwise, the answer must be no. There can be no shortcut back into your good graces. There can be no shortcut back into your trust. There can be no shortcut back into your love, your embrace, and your intimacy and your sex life. You cannot allow this man into your bed. You are no longer related to him. Your only relationship to him is he's the father of your children, which is very important, but that's a friendship relationship. You know, as I've counseled in previous videos, you want to maintain a friendly relationship. I'm not saying become his enemy. I am, for the sake of the children. I am saying for your own emotional well-being, there are lots of fish in the sea. You know, men are like buses. Wait 15 minutes, another one will be along. You know, there's always going to be someone along sooner or later. You don't have to take him back. On the other hand, you once did love him. You once were passionate about him. You once did take him into your bed, and you can do it again, but make him court you for no less than 1 full year. And I'd set that out as the parameters when it began. I'd say to him, look, because during that year, he's going to show you what's really going on. He's not going to be able to keep up his party manners for long. Since you've been divorced for a couple of years, you're starting over fresh. And like all people starting over fresh, we all put forward the face we want the other person to see when we are trying to begin a relationship. For example, there's a woman that I'm interested in right now that's a nurse at a hospital that I stop by regularly on some work that I do. And I'm very attracted to her, but I'm taking it slow and easy, and I have to woo her. I have to, first she's going to have to trust me, and then secondly, we're going to, start it slow, and you got to crawl before you walk and walk before you run. And so hopefully it'll start with, some coffees, and then maybe some lunch, and then maybe some dinner, and yada, yada, yada. And I'm a big believer in not rushing relationship. And in particular, even though obviously you have 2 children with this man, even though obviously you have a normal sex drive, and it might be very tempting to get back into bed with him, you must resist the urge. Okay, and make this an old-fashioned relationship and make him work for it. And this same advice would go, by the way, if it was a man that was cheated on and a woman was coming back. You've got to make them earn their way back into your hearts and show who they are. Because in the course of a full year, this minimum amount of time, sooner or later they will show you who they really are. The party face will drop. A moment will come. A disagreement will flare up. A bad day will show its head, and they'll show you who they really are. And at that moment, the trick is to believe it. When someone shows you who they really are, the big trick is to believe it. It's very, very important, because that's the real person. You can show people, from a male point of view, what a gentleman and what a knight in shining armor you are, and yada, yada. But if underneath that, it's all built on a crappy foundation of, hound dog, no good, lying, cheating, beating, abusive male, believe me, that will sneak its way out. Now, I don't think in this case, Carolyn, your husband is going to be that dramatic. There was nothing in your question about beatings or abuse or anything like that. This is this is a very serious thing, but this was a case of adultery, plain and simple, and he is going to have to just, again, let me repeat it. I don't want to be redundant or, make me sound like I'm, got early onset dementia. Maybe it's not that early being 63 years old. But anyway, the bottom line is here, You cannot forgive him unless and until he proves himself through 1 year of courting and dating. And that is my advice. Otherwise, again, there's a lot of fish in the sea. They're just like buses. Another one will be along. There is no need to take him back, regardless of the fact that he is the father of your children, because, in fact, the damage was already done to your children by the divorce previously, and that bell cannot be unrung. That damage cannot be undone. And one of the reasons, taking him back with a 13 and a 16-year-old, let me just say as an aside, could be a real problem. They could be very angry at him. I mean, it would be a normal relationship, a normal reaction, I should say, that your daughters are mad at him. You know, I mean, you can love somebody and be mad at him. He has to earn his way back into the trust of all of you, okay? He has to be a role model for your daughters on what, if you know, again, I'm going to slightly digress, but I'm still on subject. You know, children, as I've said before, are the receptacles of all their parents' unresolved issues. So the chances are that whatever issue that you have in you, Carolyn, that led, you know, in part to what happened with your husband, there's a good chance that one or both of your daughters could replay this in their own life. And you want to be a role model as to if this were to happen to them, if they were to have a husband or a boyfriend who were to cheat and then come back, you've got to show them that they have to stand strong in their womanhood and they have to make this man crawl. Again, I know I'm being redundant, but that's the best analogy, the best metaphor I can give. He has to crawl on his belly like a reptile and prove for 1 full year that he is worthy of trust. Otherwise, move on. Okay, so before we go on today, that's the end of my advice. I think I've made my point. I think I've been redundant enough. I hope you all get the drift. Don't be easy. That's what it all really comes down to. I wonder if that's how I haven't decided yet, but I might title this. Anyway, thank you very much. Once more, look above my head. Text to my other dad, 844-935-0444. That's the number to text me your anonymous questions that I will answer and hopefully enlighten, as I have with this one today, or at least I hope you think so. Also, please click on the subscription button. Please click on the notification button so you know when I'm going to put up, by the way, always 2 new videos every single week. And you'll always want to be notified that they're coming on. And also, please, because the logarithm at YouTube does not share this until I have 40 of these, 45 of these things up and at them, the only way people are going to find this is if you share it. So please share it with your friends. Oh, and one last note. I'm an author as well. I've written a really great book that I think you'll enjoy. It's called The Terrarium. I'll make sure that the producer puts the link below. It's on Amazon. You can either download it, get it in paperback, or if you are a Prime member, read it for free in the Kindle Lending Library. It has gotten nothing but 5-star and 4-star reviews. It is a wonderful coming-of-age story, and I think you'll really, really enjoy it. And it's suitable for everyone from mature teens all the way up to old people in between. I think you will find it entertaining reading, and not only will you entertain yourself in this time of COVID, because how much TV can you really watch, but at the very same time, you will help support this channel, and isn't that a wonderful thing too? Anyway, thank you again very, very much for joining me, and until next time, this is E.H. Ivins, your Uncle Herbie, the dad you wish you had, saying so long.